recap show presented by First Star Logistics of the Sit Down with Malik Wright. The Bengals had a huge victory yesterday over the Minnesota Vikings. It was a huge victory, not because you know not because the Minnesota Vikings are some juggernaut. It was a huge victory because anything you can do to continue to build morale, build consistency is huge. It's another game in which the Bengals score 25 plus points. It's another game in which the Bengals offense looks formidable. I was scared of the points because it seemed like they were going away from the running game again. And then when they recommitted themselves to it again, what do you know what happened? It all started clicking again. It all started working. They allowed Jake Browning to get into a rhythm. So I got to say once again, hats off to the coaching staff for the adaptability that took place in the game on Saturday. It's so weird being on Saturday because
Yeah,
I
still
continue to
Sunday.
yeah, for sure. But I also want to remind everybody before we really jump into this, before we start answering your questions, drop your questions down in the comment section because there is going to be a point in the show where we get to all of those. But if you can guys do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live from the First Star Logistics studio or our in-home studio as we break down all things Cincinnati Bengals as well as all things around various sports. Daniel, what were your thoughts on the game on Saturday?
Man, I mean, I have a bunch of thoughts. First off, the Bengals are in the race. The Bengals have a chance, and that's all you can ask for, right? All you can ask for is the opportunity to make the playoffs. All you can ask for is the opportunity to make something happen. And I saw a tweet that the Bengals cannot leave week 15 this week without a playoff spot. So they're going to end the weekend with a quote unquote being in the playoffs. So it's in your hands. It's in your hands. You play two teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers that are in the playoff race, and you play the Cleveland Browns who are currently ahead of you. So, man, it's just a huge contrast from the conversation we were having 3 weeks ago, right? And it's a good thing. We were having this conversation. Even I was in the mindset, okay, how do we look at this? This is the evaluation phase, right? We weren't necessarily saying this team can compete for a Super Bowl. It was let's evaluate the coaching staff. And right now they're passing. They're passing the test with flying colors. They're 3-0 in their past 3 games with Jake Browning. And just the way that they're doing it too, it's gritty football. This past weekend, we were in the First Star Logistics suite, and we were saying, man, like, all right, this game isn't going our way at the beginning of the game. This game isn't maybe the run is okay, starting to get over, but man, this team, they fought through it. And props to some of the players, man. I mean, the way that the Bengals are using Chase Brown, obviously we'll get into it. Chase Brown's looking good. Miles Murphy's really coming into his own. He's one of the guys that definitely, hey, he's the piece that we've got to look at for the future for next year to say, hey, next year's potential Super Bowl run, he's going to be a huge key piece. DJ Reader goes down. Who steps up? BJ Hill. It's like guys are just stepping up. Mike Hillen, huge props. The huge contrast, in my opinion, from what we were looking at before the season with Mike Hillen to where he is now. The way that they're utilizing him, the fact that you put him at that free safety, that roaming position, the dude is a ball hawk, huge turnover. The Vikings, like I said at the beginning of this game, they had their foots on the gas pedal, and the way they were going about it, it was 7-3. The Bengals had 2 turnovers in the red zone. Those could have easily flipped the switch and made it 16-3 in the first half, but that didn't happen. So props to this team all around. Props to this coaching staff. If I had to look at some other players, I mean, T. Higgins, the touchdown, the catch that was overruled. T. Higgins had a huge game, but it just goes back to, and this is the point I want to make, and I think this is what's so important, is this has got to show up, and this has to show up with Joe Burrow. And the reason why I say this, T. Higgins' skill set is honestly, it's just throwing it up. And I hate to make it that simple, but that's what we didn't see at the beginning of the season. And not to give T. Higgins a pass, but that's his game. You've got to it's honestly both times his huge plays were broken plays by Jake Browning and saying, hey, let me just throw it up into double coverage with T. Higgins.
See, I disagree a little bit with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I disagree because I feel like there were a lot of moments where T. Higgins was open on standard routes.
Fair.
In which Jake Browning early in the game was not looking his way. He was,
That's right.
It was even on the interception he threw to Irv Smith. He stared down that side when the side of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase was wide open. I didn't understand that thought process too much. And even on the decision he made when he threw it into triple coverage to Irv Smith,
Yeah.
You had Tanner Hudson wide open on the sideline by himself. He could have just gave it to him, check down. Again, trusting your check downs is huge in the National Football League. I know if our guy Evan was here, Evan would talk about his average depth of targeting, if you
Yeah.
will. I hope I didn't butcher that for you, Ev, but his average depth of his average depth of target was, I think it was like 31st in the league or 32nd. It was like he literally just threw check down short, and then it was a lot of yak yards, allowing your playmakers to make plays in space, right? And
Yeah.
for me, I think that it's okay to do that. I think it's okay to do that. We saw Tom Brady, and I'm not comparing Jake Brown and Tom Brady, but we saw
Yeah.
Tom Brady literally do check downs through most of his tenure in New England. And then when things would open up, he would then take deep shots. And I think you have to
Yeah.
allow the defense to respect that. I think that you have to allow the defense to want to come up, because ideally that's what you want to do. Like if you have a successful running game, the defense is going to start to load the box. If you start checking the ball down, the defensive backs are going to start to play your cornerbacks so tight. And for me, I don't know, like if I'm ridiculing anything, first and foremost, I was very impressed. I was very impressed with the coach's adaptability. But guys, if I'm being honest with you, the Tyler Boyd stuff was open all game. The Tyler Boyd stuff was all open all game. For a large portion of the game, they were playing Tyler Boyd 10 yards off, 15 yards off. I mean, like legitimately, like it's like a safety basically on him playing deep, right? So my thought process was Tyler Boyd could have been killing him in the slot the entire game. They somehow was like, you know what? We know what we're gonna do. We're gonna then throw to him in overtime. And what do you know? He came up with 2 big catches, right? And sometimes I feel like Jake escapes the pocket a little too early,
Yep.
just a tad bit too early, and he looks for the big play. Like I think he should not go away from what got him, talked about, what got the Bengals season back on track, and what got him a lot of money, so far. And it's okay to take the checkdowns. It's okay to rely on your playmakers. It's okay to let your playmakers, do more, if you will. But Boyd should not have gone catchless.
Yeah.
He should not have gone catchless until the fourth quarter. His first catch came in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
The other targets he were getting were predetermined screens that the defensive line read. Those are things that can't happen. To me, there's no world in which, if I'm being critical, I am happy with a victory. I'm happy that the Bengals won. But Benjamin Harrison says, to be honest, is the man, he just been having a case of the drops. He has been. He has had a case of the drops. But the worst thing you could do to a wide receiver, is alienate him, essentially. And that's sort of like what I felt like kind of took place a little bit, just to be quite honest. And I don't think it was by design. I just think I think Jake Brown tried to overcomplicate. You could tell Jake Brown did take this game personal a little bit, because the easy reads, the checkdowns were there. That's all I'm saying. You still want to allow them to get into the game. Burner says literally nobody has the field vision of Burrow does. I disagree with that. But I also have seen Joe Burrow go out there and stare receivers down. And, it happens. It's the National Football League. You're going to have plays where you're not going to be like that. But I won't sit up there and say Joe Burrow has some incredible field vision, because one of my issues with Joe Burrow at times was he wouldn't take the check down either. That was sort of his issue this year. He refused to throw to his running backs. That's why you saw Joe Mixon's huge spike in receptions go up after Joe Burrow got injured. It wasn't that Joe Mixon wasn't open. It wasn't that Joe Mixon wasn't available for the check down or tight ends. Well, he was throwing to Tanner Hudson before he got injured, but it's just that sometimes you fall in love. You got guys like T. Higgins, Jamar Chase out there. You obviously want to look for the home run threat, but sometimes the easier pass, the path of least resistance, is checking it down to your running back and letting them make plays. And I think there's not a crime in that. And I think that's okay with that. But say all that to say, victory was great. Victory was great. Just want to maintain consistency over 4 quarters. Obviously, that's everyone's dream in the National Football League. Shoot, not even over 4. Let's just say over 2 halves.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just say over 2 halves of football. But I do think that yesterday's victory was huge in the sense of the confidence builder. It was confidence builder for Jake. He got to stick it to a team that cut him. He got to stick it to a team and tell that team, hey, you know what? I still belong. I'm in the league. While you guys traded capital for a backup quarterback that is, sitting on your backup spot. But yeah, I've got nothing but good things to say about the Bengals victory yesterday and the adaptability of the coaching staff to not forget about the run game because the running game is what allowed them to get back in this game, Daniel.
Yeah, there's a couple things I kind of want to recap before we head over to questions. If you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them down below and make sure you guys give this video a like. A couple things that I just wanted to kind of touch on. We didn't even talk about this, but the 3rd and 1 where they called the trick play, that was one right away where the pass, to Tanner Hudson throws it. It's 3rd and 1 in the red zone, and you've got the chance to open up the game with a touchdown. And for me, that was one when I went back and rewatched it, I was like, man, that was a missed opportunity. And I understand the trick plays. I applaud them for the trick plays. That's just something where the Bengals need to get better at the short yardage downs, even when they were on the goal line. The QB sneak with Jake Browning didn't work. You guys are lucky that Joe Mixon, the great run right after that to score the touchdown. But the short yardage has to work. And that was one right away. I was like, man, the pass to Tanner Hudson to throw the ball to T. Higgins, is that the best trick play you come out of? So that was something. And then just looking at some other things, like you said, you got to put together 4 quarters. I barely realized they were down 17-3 heading into that 4th quarter. So that was like, you scored 3 points in the first 3 quarters. And it just goes back to my mind of when we were actually watching the game. It was like, this game, what are we doing here, folks? So the fact that they were able to come back from being down 17-3, even after the Jermaine Pratt interception, that was one where we were in the suite saying, man, this game should be over. Game call was overturned. Obviously, the Bengals go down to score, but just props to the offense for being able to go out in the 4th quarter and put up 14 points. That was one of my biggest takeaways.
I mean, again, I just think it shows that this team is really rallying behind Jake Browning, really rallying together. Even with with Jamar Chase going out with what was being reported as a separated shoulder. They still found a way. Man. And that's all you can ask. It feels like this defense is starting to round into form. Still can't cover tight end. So if you're better, and but I will say that is a prop that I like. But I will say they did a better job. They did do a better job, I would say.
And that was one thing where I was happy with the job they were doing before. It's like in the garbage time. It's like at the end of games when they go do that zone coverage, that's when they get screwed up. But I like put Dax Hill on them. Like put a safety on the tight end, especially if they have a great one. It works, but you've got to be consistent with it, right? TJ Hawkinson had 3 receptions in the final, from the 2-minute warning to overtime. He had 3 receptions for 30-something yards. That just can't happen. So,
yeah, somebody said Zach needs to cut out the trick plays. Yeah, I didn't understand the handoff to Tanner Hudson, allowing him to throw in the red zone. To me, it's like the red zone is so precious. It's so you can't afford to waste plays in the red zone. Yeah, that's just my thought process. I think that Jake Browning again did a fantastic job. I think that this coaching staff again is just starting to really adapt and really round into form though. But I do want to get to some of these questions. So make sure you guys do this favor. Start to drop your questions down in the comment section, so we can start to answer them because that's our favorite part of doing these recap shows where we're able to discuss and talk with you guys. Obviously, the Bengals, as it stands right now, are in the playoffs and they control their own destiny as it currently stands. Especially with the loss by the Denver Broncos that really helped. So we want to start answering some of your questions and get you guys involved in the conversation. But if you guys just give this video a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live. Right now we only got like 6 likes and there's a lot of us in this comment section, so that's all we ask. Daniel, with that being said, you want to jump to it?
So we got a couple people talking, and it's kind of funny. P. Crawley 513 said a great win. Too bad the season's over with all the major injuries. And Band of Burners responding saying, "Take your negativity elsewhere, buddy." Listen, and this is I don't even think they're talking about us, but it is important to talk about the injuries. And the Bengals still can win without the injuries, but the fact that you did lose DJ Reader, the fact that you did lose Jamar Chase, that still does hurt. And it's not like we're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals this season saying they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl. You got to make the playoffs here first, right? And I think that's one of the most important things. I've seen a lot of Bengals fans saying we're a lock. We're a lock. You got the Steelers with Mitch Trubisky. We've got the Browns with the backup quarterback. the next three stretch is the hardest three stretch of this season without Joe Burrow. You just got past the Colts, the Vikings, and the forgetting the Jaguars, all with backup quarterbacks. And now's when the real stretch starts. So it is important that we discuss the injuries, because you look at some of these teams like the Browns who are going to run the ball. And what does DJ Reader do? He helps stop the run. So what's your thoughts on the injuries?
I mean, there's no way to slice it, guys. That loss to DJ Reader is huge. It's huge. DJ Reader is a mountain of a man. He is the guy that will spoil your plans if you allow him to. That being said, it's going to take a collective effort.
Yep.
It is going to take Tupou. Okay. It is going to take Carter. It is going to take, obviously, BJ Hill to continue to play at the level that he's playing at. It's going to take Miles Murphy kicking inside. It's going to take everybody. It's going to be what this team has done all season, banding together and finding a way. That's literally what it's going to be. Now, teams might start running the ball more on the Bengals, right? That is probably no secret. That is probably going to happen. And I think I would probably see a lot of teams as worse to usually they do halfback tosses and stretch plays. I expect teams to run it right up the middle to really test out the loss of DJ Reader and see if this team, will fold or will they keep fighting. And I think this is a big spot for them. This is a big spot for loose defense, right? And I also think that from a financial standpoint, it could allow the Bengals to see what life would be like without DJ Reader. And this is crazy, right? You get to see what life without DJ Reader would be like if you weren't to re-sign him. And I look at it and I say, you know what? If they go out there and they perform great, I'm not saying DJ Reader is expendable, but it gives you more things to think about.
No, definitely.
Right? So I think that if I'm staring at it and I'm judging this is a huge spot for the Bengals to see what life without DJ Reader is going to be like. And if they pass with flying colors, then they can potentially start having discussions about what they're going to do with some of those funds.
And that's the thing. This conversation was going to be had at some point. DJ Reader's contract is up, and DJ Reader is going to ask for a good amount of money to, he's a damn good player. So it's definitely needed. I
just don't know if his player type, because he's not a 3-tech, he is a true nose tackle.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think the biggest contract DJ Reader would have seen was the one the Bengals potentially gave him. And the reason why I say that is because you've got a 30-year-old, defensive tackle, nose tackle, coming off of 2 quad injuries, one in each leg the last 2 years, right? So you got to wonder how that would affect his value. But even then, so I think that what the number the Bengals paid him this last time was great, but I don't see it going beyond that, because you have to ask yourself, DJ Reader has been damn good, right?
Yep.
But how, is there another level for him to get to? I'm not so sure. Even this level right here that he's at is great. And those guys typically stay at that level consistently until they're mid-30s, potentially, maybe a little bit before. The drop-off with nose tackle age is not that drastic. And I don't think the asking price is that drastic, because you get what you get. That's just my thought process. I think the Bengals, you got to remember when they paid DJ Reader, they kind of had to overpay. They overpaid the Denver Broncos out of they overpaid the Broncos because the Bengals were bad at the time, right? He was coming to a team in which, they hadn't done anything recently, right? And then obviously they were drafting Joe Burrow. So he says, would I rather play with Drew Lock, or in the legit statement, would I rather play with Drew Lock or would I rather play with Joe Burrow? That's an easy answer. So I think it's a double sword. I think it's a double sword, but I do think that you can kind of figure out what you need.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these contracts. Like Larry Ogunjobi got 3 years, $28 million. So that's about $10 million a year. That's probably, and it sucks that we're talking about DJ Reader like this. His price definitely goes down because of this injury, and
it's because it's the second one in the last, however many years. But I don't even want. I don't even want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to start talking about a player, because that makes us dehumanize players. I think, and that's on me.
You're
I
good.
don't want to dehumanize players and start talking about them like for finding out. DJ Reader's been damn good for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I wouldn't leave it at that. It's a huge loss for the Bengals. It'll be a great collective effort. We could table those, conversations for a later point. That's what the offseason's
Yeah.
for. But this is a huge spot for some of the younger guys to step up and see what they can do. This is
Yeah.
a huge spot for them. This is a huge spot for the Bengals to see how they can, put it all together. And if they can win, despite the injury to DJ Reader and despite all the difficulties that they're facing with no Joe Burrow, with Jake Browning being in there, that's just my thought process.
Yeah. And regardless, DJ Reader is going to get paid. He's going to get paid and he's going to be fine this offseason. Keith, 330 asks, Miles Murphy's improving game to game. Overall, what's your thoughts on Miles Murphy from what you've seen from him?
I thought Miles Murphy has looked good. I thought there was a lot of people panicking about him. Understand this. I think that a lot of people, when you draft a guy in the first round, they expect you to come in right away and just produce and be great automatically. There's a reason why guys get drafted top 5, top 3, top 10, top 15, top 20. Miles Murphy was always going to be looked at as a project because that entire Clemson defense took a step back when Brett Venables left to go become the head coach of Oklahoma. Brian Reese took a step back. I mean, everybody took a step back. Miles Murphy was looked at as one of the best pass rushers after his freshman year. They were like, okay, this guy's going to be an absolute problem. Problem is, with the change of defense coordinator and how they were using him at linebacker and different things like that, it never happened. Never allowed him to get into rhythm, right? Now, you put him with a guy like Marion Hobby, who's the Bengals defensive line coach, and you say, you know what? This guy is going to do wonders under the tutelage of Marion Hobby. And that's what my thought process was. I think Marion Hobby is the best defensive line coach in the National Football League. I mean that wholeheartedly. What he did in Jacksonville, crazy. Even Marion Hobby was at Clemson when Cleveland Farrell and all those guys were there. Crazy, right? So I always felt like Miles Murphy was in good hands with a guy like Marion Hobby. I think Marion Hobby is the most underrated coach on this coaching staff. And he needs to get talked about a little bit more because he tries to get the most out of players who don't necessarily bring the most. And I think that needs to be talked about more. But everywhere he's gone, he's gotten the best of the defensive line. And the same could be said about a guy like Miles Murphy. Miles Murphy has started to get more pressure. Miles Murphy started to, really just give issues and give problems to these offensive linemen, whether it's him rushing on the edge, him rushing on the inside. To me, Miles Murphy has shown more than Joseph Asai has.
Yes.
In my honest opinion. And I think that his length, his power, and I think the game is starting to slow down to him. So I think his speed is starting to really, it's really starting to slow down to him. The game is starting to become a little easier for him. So I think Miles Murphy has done, great. And I think he's going to be a great pick for the Bengals.
Yeah. And Miles Murphy is going to be a huge topic of discussion for us as the offseason goes on. So, how he progresses and everything. And also, when you guys are watching pass rusher, just know it's not often does a pass rusher win every single rep.
Mm-hmm.
It's not often. I believe the stat, I wish we had Evan here, is about 25% of snaps that you can get a pressure. That's pretty much the average. That's, hey, if you can get a pressure on 25% of snaps, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's about. So that's 1 out of every 4. And Miles Murphy is doing that. Miles Murphy, and you can tell he's a little rough around the edges. He's getting pressure sometimes, and he's almost there. So I love Miles Murphy, and he's definitely shown just about enough to say, hey, at least he's not terrible.
No, I'll tell you right now, he's definitely not terrible.
Yeah.
I think he's actually going to be good. I think he's good right now.
Yep.
I'll tell you, like when he starts to put it all together and he starts putting those paws on you, man, and he starts being able to get a hand on the quarterback, he's gonna be tough, man.
No, for sure. And I'm excited to see his progression. We got, I think this is Benjamin's asking. Benjamin Harrison said, I asked before and I will ask again, with Jake winning out, when we win the Super Bowl, do y'all really think we will be able to hold on to him after the season? Maybe you're talking about after next season, because after this season, I believe you said he's some sort of restricted free agent to where the Bengals are going to retain him next season.
Yeah.
But what about after that? What do you think?
I mean, no. I mean, you would have teams obviously wanting that guy. But again, you guys know how I feel. It's exciting. Beat the Minnesota Vikings in overtime. Let's take it game by game. Just continue to take every game one by one. Next week is the Pittsburgh Steelers. No other game matters beyond that. Talking about playoffs don't even matter. Super Bowl definitely don't even matter. Let's just focus on one game at a time because treat every next game like it's your Super Bowl. Treat every next game like it's the most important game. And I know that sounds cliche, it sounds like coach speak, but it's the God's honest truth. If this team starts looking ahead, if this team starts, believing its own hype, if you will, that could be detrimental. I think that the fact that they're taking an underdog approach, everybody, Cincinnati against the world, everybody is, counting the Bengals out. I think that's what's going to get them in the where they want to be. I'll say that. So just take it game by game, treat every game like it's the most important game, and go from there.
Yep. James Wright said, "What do you guys think about the interception that was called back? What a great play by our linebacker, one of the best I've ever seen, and that T. Higgins play otherworldly."
Yeah, Jermaine Pratt had no intentions on this game going. Was it overtime? It would have been.
That would have I think that would have tied the game.
Yeah, I think Jermaine Pratt had no intentions on leaving it to having the offense come back on the field. I think that was a guy that wanted to make his stand, make his mark, man. And, our linebackers are rounding into form, man. They started the season off okay, and then the middle of the season things got a little rough, and then we were like, okay, that's not the best linebacker play we've seen out of Logan, out of Jermaine Pratt. And they've started to really, really round into form as of recently, man. And I think a lot of it, I was talking with Daniel about it, I think it's a communication aspect. I think it's because you have so many young guys in the secondary, and they're trying to over communicate to make sure those guys are set and everybody is set correctly. Because obviously, with those guys being some of the longest tenured guys, on the team, you expect more of them. You expect them to be able to get the rookies in the right place and, set the defense. And now I think that everything's starting to slow down for Jordan Battle. Even Dax Hill, you can even consider him a rookie, some aspect. It's slowing down for him. I think that so Dada D said no, it would have been 24-17 if it wasn't called back. We would have been
Oh, so that was before. Yeah. If it wasn't called back, it would have been 24-17.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Okay, so then that was before the T. Higgins touchdown. So you got to stop, touchdown, another stop, touchdown. Okay.
Yeah. So I forgot my train of thought on what I was asking.
I think we were talking. I forgot.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, Jermaine Pratt. I would just say when we were sitting there, there's been some loud times. We've definitely been in attendance for some loud times. The Sam Hubbard touchdown in the playoffs, or to make it to the playoffs. That was one of the loudest I've ever heard that crowd. It was, and I think it just goes to show it's those games in football when it's like the stock is going down and there's a huge play that completely turns around. That crowd was crazy, Malik, after that. But Benjamin Harrison said timely turnovers, as you said, Malik. That's the name of the game, and it's hard to rely on them, but it wins games. It wins games. Like, if that turnover wouldn't have been overturned, that would have been 3 timely turnovers. Well, 1 for the touchdown, but 2 were in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
And still, it doesn't give me extreme confidence saying, okay, like the defense still gave up 300 passing yards to Nick Mullins. But it shows, all right, we're doing something good. So I'm not going to be one of the negative people, but it is important to talk about, hey, like, you did that against a backup quarterback. Nick Mullins, one of the interceptions was him falling. Terrible decision. 2 was on 3rd down. And 3 was a screen pass that was read the entire way. It took about 4 seconds to develop. So I give a lot of credit to the Bengals defense, but I also look at the opposing quarterback and say, man, Nick Mullins, that was just a rough play.
Yeah, listen, the Bengals defense, I'll say this. I think timely turnovers is important because I think that's the National Football League. I think it's very, very going to blow people out week to week basis, right? We see teams that have no business losing, lose sometimes. Teams that have business winning, win sometimes. So I think you should respect every opponent, and you should look at every opponent as, they're Tom Brady. You're going against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots at their height. That's how you should probably approach every single game, because I think that way you won't look past a team. And I think for the Bengals situation here, I think that their defense is still young. Their defense is still rounding into form. And that all being said, I think that if the Bengals are able to get those timely turnovers aren't a bad thing. We saw New England with
Yep.
Matt Patricia make a living off of that. Um, if you're able to get that, man, that just shows the clutch gene in this defense, if you ask me. And I think that you're going to give up yards. You're going to have teams go off times. It doesn't matter if it's Nick Mullins. Because I'm pretty sure the Vikings are looking at themselves like, damn, we just let Jake Browning
Yep.
go for 325 yards on a guy that we cut, the guy that sucked in practice against us, right? That's probably what their thought process is. Sometimes believing your own hype and thinking you're better than what you actually are. But I think just the more important thing is control what you can control. And if you can get turnovers, if you can get interceptions, if you can get fumbles at the right time, if you can make the plays that are necessary, like hell of a play by Zach Carter as well, even on the third, it wasn't necessarily a turnover, but it was a timely play, right?
Yep.
It was where he literally just like timed the snap perfectly and immediately went low and was able to stop the forward progress of Nick Mullins for the quarterback sneak. Those type of plays. And it was so funny because it felt like being in the stadium in the first star logistics suite it felt like the referees are trying to do everything in their power to give the Vikings the game. It almost felt like, I mean, how many times did they measure that? I mean, like, I don't know if you guys were on TV timeout at all. For those of you that were watching at home, they had to measure, I kid you not, they had to measure the Nick Mullins quarterback sneak thing. I probably want to say about 4 times.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Nah, it
Like,
was at least 3 to 4 one time.
it was at least like 4 times. They literally looked at it once, looked at it twice. Literally, the announcer on the announce speaker says, "It's turnover and downs, Bengals ball."
And then
they did it again.
Yeah.
And then the Bengals offense came out there on the field. They waited like 2 minutes before the Bengals could even begin talking. They did it again. I'm like, bro, it didn't go. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. So I don't know. I just found that very funny. That was one of the strangest things I've seen at a game. I understand wanting to get it right because it's a game of inches and you want to make sure everything's correct. But that felt a little, I don't know, excessive.
Yeah. James Wright said this was one of the best games I've ever been seeing as a longtime Bengals fan. The intrigue and mental fortitude and never quit displayed by the roster is noteworthy. The 3rd and 4th down stops won it, definitely. And that's something like, listen, those 3rd and 4th down stops, it's rare that you get those, on multiple drives in a game. It's rare. You see many times where that just ends a game and the game's over right there. But props to the defense for really stepping up when they needed it. And like I said, that potential Jermaine Pratt touchdown was, man, that fans were going crazy for that one. So we had a question about Jordan Battle. What was your thoughts overall on how is he doing in coverage as well?
I wish I could answer that. I saw him. I had a better gauge of him doing great in coverage last week.
Yep.
They kept putting Nick Scott in on passing downs, on third and long passing downs, which I still don't understand for me. Yeah. So I think, again, we're still waiting to fully judge Jordan Battle in pass coverage. What I saw, I thought he did a great job. I thought he did a good job when he was there in coverage. Great job tackling. Great job not allowing a huge yards after catch. But I'd like to see him in there just full time, if you ask me.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Nick Scott. I would just rather see him in there full time. And I think the rest of the Bengals nation would agree.
Yeah, and when we looked at the way that they were using their safeties, I don't think Battle really had multiple consecutive snaps where he was, playing deep safety. He's doing so many different things. And we saw even Mike Hilton drop back. So they're doing a lot of different things with their safeties. We're definitely going to have more time to see Jordan Battle. Someone said, I'm trying to find the comment, but he said teams don't want to see the Bengals in the playoffs. His friend texted him that T. Higgins is a beast. T. Higgins is definitely a beast. 50-50 balls. Which thoughts, I guess, Bengals in the playoffs?
One game at a time. That's my thoughts.
All right. Overall, is there any other takeaways that you had from today's or yesterday's game, whether it's any other players stepping up defensive line, cornerbacks, DJ Turner without Cam Taylor-Britt, or just looking at the Vikings? Any other takeaways you have?
Cheeto Bay, Wouzier is starting to round into form. Mike Hilton, damn good job, man, as well.
Yep.
In spots, man. I know he gave some yardage too, but Mike Hilton, man, he if he ain't defensive player of the game in my eyes, he's close to it, man. That guy, he was sticky on Justin Jefferson, man. He made Justin Jefferson work. I don't know how Jordan Addison caught that pass. DJ Turner was on the coverage there, I think. I don't know how he caught that pass, man, but that was crazy. That was probably one of the best grabs I've seen at a game that I've actually been. Hmm,
That it
it was
deserves to
up
be.
there.
It deserves to be.
It was up there as one of the best catches that I've seen for sure. I don't know, that Jamar Chase against the Chiefs on fourth and whatever
Yep.
it was
Yep.
in Kansas City was pretty crazy. I got to be honest with you, but um, yeah, I props to Mike Hilton, man, did a fantastic job. And sometimes we're very hard on the show about talking about him in coverage, but I thought he did a very, very good job.
Phenomenal
Yeah.
job. He there was even a play where it was, and this is props to the Bengals coaching staff, had double coverage on Justin Jefferson, but Mike Hilton took Justin Jefferson, I believe it was from the slot, took him deep and batted the ball down. He did have safety help over top, but Mike Hilton had a great game. Toby Pryor said, "Hi guys, love the show. I'm from Australia. Appreciate the love from Australia." She said, or he said, "This team just keeps getting better at this time of year. Love Murphy's game. 2 top pass rushers would definitely be a huge difference down the stretch." I agree. And that's one where, listen, if Miles Murphy isn't elite this season, it's okay. Nobody's asking him to be elite this season. But the hope is that next year you have help to help Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is a beast. Trey Hendrickson is in his prime. You need help on the pass rushing side. So we appreciate you, Toby, for dropping that question. And just going back to that real quick from Jordan Addison, that was, listen, people don't understand how hard that grab is when you are moving 15 miles an hour, fast as hell. You're in a full sprint. You got to reach all the way down, fingertips. That grab it definitely took some air out of the stadium. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, but I will say, like you said, that stadium was ready to erupt, and they showed up. The Bengals definitely heard the assignment by Zach Taylor, man, and they showed up in full support. It was a weird one though. It was
Yep.
very easy to get out into the stadium, I would say,
Yep.
than normal. Like it was maybe because it was a Saturday game, but damn, I take that all day.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think a lot of it is the fans show up early. Like the fans show up early. So it'll be 3 hours. The traffic 3 hours before the game is way worse than it is like right before the game. Like, because I think fans are pulling into the tailgates 4 hours
Oh no, for
before.
sure. With that, I'm talking about just even leaving the game though. It was just easier. It wasn't.
Yeah,
It wasn't. Usually you're in a long line and stuff like that.
I agree leaving the game. Yeah. But so even, and it's kind of funny. It's like funny how the fans respond to coaches. I genuinely think Zach Taylor making that comment in his press conference about fans showing up. Maybe it's just me thinking this, but I genuinely believe enough fans saw that. It's like, all right, let me get loud for Zach Taylor. Maybe that's just my thoughts,
Oh, yeah.
but I definitely think so.
Somebody said, Malik, what's your coach speak, Malik? Can't we see you? Can't we see? Can't you see we value your opinion? No. So I know it sounds like coach speak, but so I come from a football family, right? Where I've been around football my entire life, in football my entire life, and I'll say this: I've always remained even keeled when it comes to football, when it comes to winning and losing. If you guys ever see me speak passionately, is because I've felt something for quite some time, and I've sort of like let it simmer for a while before I've said anything about it. Like when I gave that rant, the huge rant, um, when I give that huge rant about the offense and the offensive consistency, I've felt that, I've held that within me for 5 years. For 5 years, and I didn't say anything for 5 years because, um, out of respect for obviously coming in, getting players, getting a system, yada yada, the whole 9 yards down, and just like obviously, I think the more infuriating part for me was um, seeing them being able to adapt during the Super Bowl run and down last year for the 10-game stretch, and then kind of go back to what didn't work. And at the end of the day, I think that when it comes to winning and losing in the National Football League, I think it's important to stay even keeled. I think, especially when you have such a young team, right? With a quarterback that is young, that is still trying to find his way in the National Football League. I think that they don't know what they don't know. It's almost like what they said about the Bengals when they went the Super Bowl run. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know the Bengals, or this is the part where the Bengals are supposed to lose the playoff game because that's what the Marvin Lewis Bengals did. They lost in the playoffs, no matter how good they were. They don't know what they don't know, meaning they aren't supposed to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. And I feel like this team is the same exact way. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they're supposed to rattle off 3 straight games, knock off the Jacksonville Jaguars, who was one of the top teams in the AFC at home in Jacksonville when the stadium was ready to erupt. They don't know that they're supposed to knock off the Colts in blowout fashion. They don't know that they're supposed to beat the Minnesota Vikings and stick it to Brian Flores for the idiotic thing that how he acted back when the Bengals beat his Miami-led Dolphins a couple years ago. They don't know they're supposed to be Pittsburgh. That's what I'm trying to say, guys. They don't know what they don't know. And I think that that's a good thing.
Great thing.
And I think that if you guys remember, we didn't talk about Super Bowls and all this kind of stuff like that. We took it one game at a time. Took it one game at a time. And I think that was the special thing. That was a special thing because you were able to literally hone in and focus in on each opponent like it's the most important opponent. Remember, you're not supposed to be here. The Bengals season is supposed to be dead.
Yep.
According to pundits, me, one of those pundits, because I didn't think the offense was going to make this type of adapt or type of change. But I'll say this, man, they don't know what they don't know. And I think that's the best thing. And I think the worst thing we can do is start talking about playoffs and Super Bowls and all that kind of stuff like that and not allow this team to just focus in on the next game. It's Steelers week.
Mm-hmm.
You know what my focus is? Not the playoffs, not the Super Bowl. It's not going over in your division. That's especially against Pittsburgh Steelers, especially against a team like that who the Colts just blew out. That's my focus. It ain't playoffs. It ain't none of that. You keep doing what you got to do. You keep winning. Guess what? You control your own destiny. But you do that by focusing on each and every single game and making that next game the most important. Sorry, I've been talking a lot.
No, you're good. Somebody was asking this, kind of switch over real quick. He said, what was your guys' thoughts on the KZ hit on Michael Pittman Jr.? I'm not sure if you saw it, Malik, but basically, it was definitely a dirty hit. But the point that I want to make with this, and it's something I saw Tom Brady said, is it really is the quarterback's responsibility to, be aware of where he's throwing the ball and to lead his receivers in the right way. Right. It is a rare trait for a wide receiver to be able to catch the ball and not get hit. Jamar Chase has that ability to where he will be running full speed in the middle of the field and he will make a slight adjustment to his body so he doesn't get cracked. And I promise you, the safety is trying to. So on that play in particular, I know the safety was coming down and you can say it was a dirty hit, right? He was diving at him as Michael Pittman was falling over. But that's something, in my opinion, as the quarterback, you've got to know where you're leading receivers. Think about before all these rules were implemented. Think about all of the hits, the Ed Reeds of the world, the Troy Polamalu's that were cracking these receivers, the linebackers in the middle of the field. Julian Edelman, I saw many times in the middle of the field just get whomped. So,
people want me to give my opinion. I'll give you guys my opinion. And I mean this respectfully.
Yeah.
I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers have always been a dirty organization. That's my take. I felt this way from a child all the way up until covering the National Football League, breaking NFL news and all that kind of stuff like that. I've always felt in my bones that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had dirty practices. From TJ Watt, I think he's one of the most dirty players in the National Football League. Right up there with Andrew Wingard from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know if he's still there, the safety. I think the constant cheap shots of quarterbacks after the play, the holding Joe Burrow down, holding him by his neck and just, unnecessarily holding him down on the ground just to try to big brother him. From the Hines Ward crackback block on Keith Rivers years ago, which broke his jaw. Those who don't remember, Keith Rivers was the Bengals' first-round pick out of USC linebacker. Never was the same after that. There's been countless things. How about the Bengals stuff aside, Mike Tomlin tripping a player as they're running down the sideline?
Yeah, that was great.
How about the player for the Pittsburgh Steelers breaking a vertebrae in Kevin Huber's neck and wiring his jaw shut? I mean, there's been countless things to look at. The hit on Carson Palmer that tore his ACL. But here's my thing. How about what was the offense? I remember the offensive line coach grabbing Reggie Nelson by his hair
Yeah.
in the playoff game. That's the Steelers' way. That's the Steelers' way. So you guys wanted me to give my opinion. You guys said, Malik, you know what? We want to hear what you have to say. I've never had a lot of I've had respect for the Pittsburgh Steelers winning way. I just don't fancy cheating. I don't fancy unnecessary hits. I don't fancy any of that kind of stuff. So there's been a lot of, just to, let's go down that path a little bit. Ryan Shazier was a dirty player too. All respect to him, but he was a dirty player, constantly leading with the crown of his helmet. You got stuff off the field where Vince Williams saying he's going to harm Vontaze Burfict in the summer. And then you know what's crazy? When you get a player like Vontaze Burfict who matches that same energy, the Pittsburgh Steelers faithful, they want to cry and say the Bengals have a dirty player, but we want to act like Mike Mitchell, the safety who they brought in, didn't try to decapitate Marvin Jones, I believe it was, and then walked up to AJ Green and said, "You're next," after that play. But we're going to act like those things didn't happen. Oh yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I really have a strong disdain for Pittsburgh. Just throwing that out there. And it's been okay for me because they've been losing. So I don't really have too much necessarily. They're not worth my time to really talk about too much. But if you guys want my honest opinion, I think that they can dish it out, but they can't take it in the moment. The moment someone matches their energy, they're not the exact same. Yeah. Mic drop.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think they just have a history, man. And it's if you have a history, it's almost like you will meet these players who play the game of football, and not to knock them, but they are just going to go out there and they say, hey, I'm aware that is my style. I am going to hit the person. I am going to make them feel, and that's their style. I mean, if you think about it, I knew people back in high school where that was the same thing. And it's hard to change a player's mindset on the game of football if they've been doing that since high school, if they've been doing that since college, they knew that since Pee Wee to the NFL. So if you have a dirty player in the NFL, it's probably because they are owning the fact that they are a huge hitter and they think that they're going to lay the boom.
Let's be honest. If they do it, it's the Pittsburgh way. If any other team does it, it's dirty. It's the center there like that. I mean, they've had vicious play from players since Jack Lambert. I mean, this is nothing new, right? It's the reason why I think the Bengals fans hate the Pittsburgh Steelers because they're all teams aren't treated equal. So you guys wanted my opinion. You got it. I saw you saying you want to hear your opinion more, not this coach speak. There you have it. That's my thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still respect to Mike Tomlin, the job that he has done to have winning season after winning season and not ever fostering a losing season. But no, I don't fancy them too much.
Yeah. We got a question from our guy Toby Pryor. He said every game is a playoff game. 1-0. Why doesn't Trey get the love that TJ Watt gets? His stats over the past 4 years are probably better than Watt's. Agree, Malik?
I'll say he's not related to JJ Watt. They don't have the Watt name. TJ Watt came in with a lot of hype. And certainly has lived up to it, I would say. However, I would also say that, yeah, man, I feel like the league has these weird obsession with family names. Like they had a weird obsession with the Mannings, obviously. They had a weird obsession with the Bosas, the weird obsession with the Watts now. It's there's another one I'm missing in there, isn't it? Bosas, Watts, and there's another. Is there another brother tag team?
There's got to be. I'm trying to think. I don't know if on offense.
Yeah, but Trey
Kelsey's.
The Kelsey, yeah, like there's a lot of you don't have that name backing, especially Trey Hendrickson is much more on the quiet side. Like you don't really hear from Trey Hendrickson too much. He's also not like the face of the Bengals franchise.
McCourty's,
yeah. I mean, you'd like to see Trey get that type of respect, but also if you've ever had a conversation with Trey, he is a completely different player off the field than he's on. Like me and him, we talked for I want to say like me, him, and Daniel. We talked for like 45 minutes, and we didn't even talk about football. We talked about faith.
Yeah.
Right. We literally talked about faith, man, and that was so awesome just to hear his perspective, and him talk about why that's such a big part of his life. Him and his wife are all just absolutely awesome people, and yeah, I have a lot of respect for them, man. I have a lot of respect for Trey Henderson, the way he goes about his business. I believe that, you know, what's over time, he will gain more respect, even if it's not on a national level. Certainly in Cincinnati, I think he'll be talked about a lot more, because I think that undeniably he will go down as one of the best pass rushers in Cincinnati Bengals history. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, and I think another thing that kind of goes with the Trey Hendrickson thing is it's kind of like you just got to watch the games to understand. I feel like he's a player who will always be disrespected unless people actually watch the games, and that's a very important thing because a lot of fans don't watch football, and this isn't a shot, but like people hear the name Trey Hendrickson and think he's just some other dude. Like I guarantee at least 50% of the fans will say, like, who's that? Trey Henderson. He's not TJ Watt. He's not JJ Watt. It doesn't matter. Unless if you watch the games. And that's something I really applaud the Bengals fans for because they really stand up for their guys. And like I've had conversations with people like Trey Henderson, like fans, opposing teams fans say, oh, he's fine. It's like, okay, well, you're not watching the game. So I don't give opposing fans too much of a big deal because, hey, I understand they just probably don't watch Trey Henderson. I just strongly advise people to go watch Trey Henderson. You guys will understand he is on that level of being an elite player. So Benjamin Harrison said, do you guys think that there should have been a flag on Charlie Jones on the punt return? I think it was when he was getting either someone was getting pushed back into him. I need to go back and rewatch that, but
no, I don't. I don't think it should have been a flag there. I actually agree with them picking it up. It was clearly knocked into. But I would like to see a flag there, but maybe not for my parlay. But yeah, that's that's a whole another
thing. We got Anthony Jameson said, why doesn't Lou replace Mike Hilton with a linebacker on early running downs, help with the defense with the running game? I actually don't know if that's the problem. I don't know, like maybe. But like Mike Hilton's been a good run defender. He's very useful off the edge. So what do you think? What should the Bengals do on early downs to stop the run? Should they replace somebody?
No, Mike Hilton's a very good run defender. I definitely don't think you want to take that guy out of the field. But I think you got to just trust what you got, man. I think you just got to trust who you got, trust the players that you have in kind of the rotation that you currently have. This is the big spot for Zach Carter. This literally could not be more perfect for him. This is not going to be more perfect than him, Miles Murphy, but it's going to take a collective effort. There's not one guy that I say, throw them in there and then they'll just replace Reader. Tupa, I don't just say throw him in there and he'll replace, Reader. I think it's going to be a collective effort. It puts a greater emphasis on tackling and wrapping up, honestly.
Yeah. Someone was saying that was a big play from Yoshi Voss. Yoshi Voss saved us. I believe he the guy who got the fumble? Probably.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, Yoshi Voss, he is a very good special teams player. Yeah. And he's been very, very good. Chuck 2624 said, with Reader out, think we go to more of a 5-man defensive line.
They've used it before. And I think it's something that they will utilize when the time comes, but I don't think that they'll necessarily drastically change who they are. But again, I've been wrong before. Luan Irmo is one of the hardest defensive coordinators to figure out. Sometimes his weird player rotations, things I don't understand. Even the Bengals coaching, like offensive coaches, staff starting to get a little weird with their rotations. Like for me, like on third down, taking Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins off the field in favor of Trent Irwin and Charlie Jones is weird to me. I don't get that.
That's if I were to have a critique, and obviously I'm sure that they've got the reasoning. I'm not a huge fan of that just because I agree you need to rotate players, but it seemed, and this was the first game I really realized just how much they were doing it. It was like every snap that they would, every snap, Boyd comes out to Irwin, Sample comes in.
Yeah.
Just a little too much. And it's like they weren't changing the formations a lot. It was just a simple, hey, let's just swap out Irwin. Like, I don't know. That was one of the things that definitely caught me a little off guard.
Definitely strange. And it feels like, because it feels like that's something you heard a lot about them, especially from the defensive side, that they didn't do years back where they was kind of like their starters are playing such high minutes, but I don't know, man. It feels like they're just a little overboard a little bit with it. Like for me,
Yeah.
there's no way in the world you're putting, you know, Charlie Jones over Tyler Boyd in there on a critical down.
No, I agree.
But I would say that throw over by Browning where Charlie led up the route. Yeah, I would say that's I don't think Charlie knew if that ball was necessarily 100% coming to him, but I would just say that was a little bit of an overthrow.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. And think about it, like it takes a split second. I think Charlie hesitated for a quarter of a second. And if you hesitate for a quarter of a second on a deep route when you're supposed to be a full sprint, that I also just look at it, how many balls in game has Jake Browning thrown Charlie Jones? Like one, if anything, before that ball. So
they probably work together in
practice.
Yeah.
Fair. So that's one of the plays where that just needs to be. That is a perfect time and play. And if somebody lets up for even a quarter of a second, it's the ball's not going to be caught. What's your guys' thoughts overall?
I think both things can be true. We were actually watching we had a pretty good view of it from the First Star Logistics suite. I do think that it was a little bit of an overthrow because Charlie Jones didn't even try to extend for it. He did pull up just a slight bit, but I think that was because the timing was just off of the route. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't think it was 100% on Charlie Jones.
No, 1,000%. It's not. Yeah, there's no. It's a missed opportunity. We'll just go back to the film and rewatch it. But yeah, is there anything else you want to?
If you guys do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let us know who you're betting on today, or not even betting on. Let us know who you're rooting for today. Can't wait to see what games you guys be watching. I'm excited for another action. Sunday football is weird again. The Bengals aren't playing next week. You got the Steelers, big game, big game. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of our recap show presented by First Star Logistics. Remember, each and every single week, the Bengals play a game. First Star Logistics will be doing a unique giveaway. Stay tuned to their social media on Twitter or X to figure out which giveaway, what is going to be the giveaway this week. But until then, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll see you guys we'll see you guys on Wednesday for